What's up, everybody? You are listening to the What Now podcast, where we discuss ways of effectively addressing life's most difficult moments. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the What Now podcast. That's right, the What Now podcast, where we discuss effective ways of facing life's most defining moments. My name is Clifton Pettyjohn. I am your trusted voice of transformation. I teach individuals how to revolutionize their lives through purpose identification and execution. We are back tonight. Well, maybe not tonight. I don't know when you're listening to this recording, but we are back with another awesome episode of the What Now podcast. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, or you have not subscribed to your favorite platform for podcasting, I need you to do that right now. Pause this video, pause this audio right now, and make sure you are subscribed, okay? Then I want to hear some feedback from you. I want you, if you're listening through Apple, leave us a star rating. You can be honest about your star rating. Leave us a review. If you're listening through YouTube, make sure you write a little comment in the comment section, all right? I love hearing back from each and every one of you. Now, before we get to our guests, I want everyone to take a deep breath in. Hold it. Breathe out. One more time. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Now, if you were able to complete that exercise, then that means two things. Number one, it means that there's breath remaining in your body, therefore purpose yet remains. And then number two, it means that you have gathered the energy that you have devoted to your past. You've gathered the energy that you are dedicating to your future, and you are bringing all of that energy into the energy of the present. And now, because you are present, you're going to be able to take away some tools, techniques, and strategies that are going to help you now produce the future that you desire. All right, listen, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. All right, everybody, help me welcome Terrance to the show. Terrance, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. We want to thank you for joining us on tonight, and thank you in advance for your willingness to share with our listening audience. Now, I like to start every conversation with an icebreaker question, and a lot of times I use my favorite icebreaker question. I'm going to use that one on tonight, all right? If you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be and why?
What superpower? Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. that's a tough one. Gosh. I think I'll say super strength.
Okay.
And I think that the reason I'm saying that because I watched my mom and my dad how they worked, and just having the strength that they had to get up, and even though I do feel like I've taken from them the work ethic and stuff like that, but I would probably say super strength. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now, here's why I asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
I asked that question because many times individuals answer that question in two ways. They either answer the question based off of what it is that they do in life,
Mm-hmm.
or they answer it based off of some of the most influential experiences they've had in life. So I always like to start with that question because 99.99999% of the time, that's what happens. And you did that today. You talked about it from the standpoint of what was so influential in your life as it relates to having that supernatural strength. And I promise you, I'm very sure that throughout the conversation, we're going to see times in your life where you displayed that supernatural strength to others as well.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's get started. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, the name of our show is What Now? We like to deal with the present, but I also like to hear everybody's backstory because I believe each and every one of our listeners can connect in some manner with the guests that we bring on the show. Sometimes we see the presentation, and the presentation looks beautiful, it looks awesome, it looks amazing. But behind that presentation is such a powerful story that sometimes doesn't look as good as the presentation. And we have people that are sometimes in that space in their lives, and I like for them to hear that not only is there hope, but there's a reality for them that they can embrace, grab hold of, and now begin to execute on a day-to-day basis. So I just want you to share with us some of your backstory and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, I appreciate you asking that question. So I began my journey going back to high school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school. So I began searching and searching. So in my English 12th grade English class, we had a recruiter come from a school, and the recruiter began to tell us about their programs they had, and she began to write different courses or career paths that they offered at their school. So one of their programs was massage therapy, and the first thing that jumped out to me was, oh my gosh, they make a lot of money. And so initially, I was like, oh, I think I may want to do this, not knowing that was the first trigger for me to, wanting and knowing that was the path in my calling. So, I went home, was like, Mom, Dad, I really, a recruiter came and I think I want to do massage therapy, as, what I want to do, with my life. And, they said, okay, in the beginning. And so time went on, and then so the recruiter came out to, meet with my parents and myself. And, as the recruiter began to, talk and began to share other programs, my parents, looking back on it now, they really didn't know what massage therapy was. And so they heard different programs, and computers was one of the programs that they offered. So they kind of, took that and said, you know what, we believe that computers will be, better for you because they'll be around longer. So them being my parents, I just listened to them. And so I just followed what they said. And I went to school for graphic design and animation. I hated it. I didn't like it whatsoever. So still in my head, I went to school. I went through the motions of doing it. But like I said, I hated it. I didn't finish. And so about 2 years went by, and I think I was 1 or 2 classes short. I didn't even finish because it really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I came back home. That was in Georgia. And I came back home, and I was like, I really still want to do massage. So I came back home in 2006, and this was right after Hurricane Katrina. So we were about 4 hours from the coast. And of course, that's about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour from New Orleans. And so at this time, I found a school down on the coast. So I went down there. I actually enrolled. My dad and I drove down, and I actually enrolled in school. So afterwards, it's like I need somewhere to stay. And so I began to look at different places, different apartments to find somewhere to stay. But every place that I found was either $800, $900, $1,000 for one bedroom. And, I was like, I can't pay for this and go to school at the same time. So I actually had to withdraw from school. So that was my second time. And so I finally found a school 3 years later, closer to me. It was about an hour away from me in Tupelo, Mississippi. But I found a school, went in and did my interview with the director, the owner of the school. And, he began to ask me questions of why, I felt like this was what I wanted to do. And, I just answered, had heartfelt answers. And, it was something, like I said, way back in high school. I didn't know at the time, but again, I felt like this was my calling, and it was my calling. And, I proceeded to, enroll in school, and, I began in 2010 and graduated at the end of that year. And so my journey began as a massage therapist. But, wanted to do something so bad, but then get to points where you feel, was it the right path for me? But this was different obstacles that would come up, maybe not making the money at the time that I wanted to make, having somebody close to you tell you, well, since you're not making the money, just go get a regular job. And, hearing those type of things, somebody, maybe, being persuaded, they may have went and done that. But, in my mind, I'm just like, no, I pay too much money to go to school. This is what I want to do, so I'm going to stick it out. So in the beginning, it was kind of rough as a massage therapist, but I just kept going. And so 3 years into massage therapy, I decided to go back for aesthetics, which is a skincare specialist who deal with skincare, whether that's waxing and so forth. But I became a esthetician as well. And so some of the hard times that I felt like I had as a massage therapist now became 3 to 5 times even worse after I became an esthetician, a male esthetician. Both of these fields are female dominated fields. And so here I am, this big black guy doing, something that, mostly females do. And so it became even harder to the point where I began to apply for jobs. In my mind, I'm at the top of the list because now I have a dual license in massage and aesthetics where, I'm a double threat. So you can hire me and I can do two things versus having to hire two different people. So that was my mindset, but nobody will hire me. I applied, down in the area where I was. I moved back home due to my mom being sick. And so I came back home, applied another place here and there, and nobody would hire me. So my 5-year goal was to have my own place, have my own spa, because that's what I wanted. And I was forced to do that in 4 years versus 5. Now, granted, looking back on it, would I have still opened my own business in 5 years? I'm not for sure, because I would have been comfortable, just working, for somebody else, doing what I love. But because I was forced to go in my own lane and create my own doors, I'm here, I am where I am today. So I was forced to do that. Yes, I believe it was in me, but until it was forced upon me to do, I'm not for sure if I would have done it. But when you're forced to do something, you're forced to, rise to the occasion. That's what I had to do. I had to take that leap of faith of deciding, especially after my mom passed 3 months after I moved back. I moved back in September, and she passed in December. So, of course, all that time while I was preparing to open my own place, but when she passed, I felt a loss after her passing, and so I actually was going to move away. But I knew everything I wanted to offer to my community, to my area, it was not being offered. So therefore, I took some time and I prayed, and I stayed. And here I am. This month makes 6 years. So 6 years later, I have accomplished a lot, and I'm super proud of that. But there were many obstacles in the way. But knowing your calling and staying true to yourself is definitely something that you want to follow, versus no matter what obstacle comes, what naysayers, even family members, people close to you say. When people don't see the vision that God gave you, you just have to keep going.
Awesome, awesome, and we're gonna stay right in that vein because you hit a trigger for me, and one of the triggers that you hit a couple triggers, but one of the triggers you hit, and I want to stay right here for a moment. You were talking about obstacles, and one of the things that I've learned in life, and I've watched this with other people, and I watched it with myself, in the past as well, is that sometimes people view obstacles as a sign not to do it, or it's a sign, well, that's not what God wants me to do. Let's talk about obstacles for a minute. How do you personally understand that this is an obstacle? I'm going to remain focused to my goal, and I'm going to accomplish the goal that I set, versus looking at an obstacle as a sign that I just don't need to be doing this.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to goals. Like I said, I set a goal for 5 years. And even though, I was working towards that goal, that obstacle came where, this is either I could quit or I could keep going. So I talk about it in my book, Determination plus Core Value equals Success. And I fall back to my core values a lot because they are my foundation, which keeps me going. So anytime that I have met that obstacle, I just go back to those core values, which is faith, determination, compassion, and dedication. And so I fall back, on those to keep me going. So those obstacles for me, because it just seems as if, in the beginning, I faced those, even just doing massage before I added the other license. There was always obstacles, always questions, did I go to school for this? And just so many different things that a lot of people would have been deterred from because, that I'm just getting so much, just so much negativity from this. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to go do something else or just go get a regular job. But for me, I feel like my core values for me kept me going. Something else I like to talk about, especially when COVID happened, and which helped me push and birth my book, was my core values. So for me, my core values keep me grounded and being my foundation, so that when something is thrown, a storm comes, the obstacle comes, I have that foundation to hold steady and keep going.
Okay, now you talking my language here. Okay. Now, how did you develop your core values? And if you can go through each value that you listed and explain what that value means to you, and then we're going to talk about your book.
Okay. So, of course, I talk about it in my book, but my first one is faith. And at 4 years old, and a lot of people ask, like, how do you remember this at 4 or 5 years old? But I remember. I maybe they were just huge to me, maybe almost trauma, but I remember. But at 4 years old, my mother and my mom and I was headed to my babysitting. My mom was notorious for being late. And so my dad would get onto her all the time, and about being late. You need to leave home early. You gotta go. Drop your son off. You gotta go get to work on time. Blah, blah, blah. But she was always late. So this morning she was late and she was rushing, and so we were going down the road, and a train was coming, and through the trees you could see the train coming, and so she felt like that she could beat the train. And long story short, she did not beat the train, but by the time she made it to the intersection where the train was crossing, she turned the wheel really hard. And so now the car is facing the opposite direction. So at 4 years old, I found faith in terms of knowing that God had something more for me to do, as well as my mom. That he had more for us to do. The reason we did not get killed, in that at that moment by being hit by a train. And so at 4 years old, faith became my first core values. And I talk about in the book how a lot of us have developed these core values at an early age, but we have not tapped into them. And then at 5 years old, still at my babysitter's house. But at this time, me not knowing at this age that I was being more active and she was getting older and she couldn't handle me the same way she could, as years passed because she was getting older. And so I was taken from this particular babysitter. Miss Rosie was her name. And I didn't understand that at 5 years old. All I understood was I wanted Miss Rosie. I wanted my chicken and dumplings because I loved her chicken and dumplings. And so I was taken to a new babysitter. And so I didn't like her. I didn't like the environment. I didn't like her food. So at 5 years old, I was like, I need to get back to Miss Rosie. So this particular day, I think weeks passed and I was in my mind like, how can I get back? How can I get back? So this one particular day, she put me down for a nap and she thought I was sleeping. I wasn't, but I waited for her to lay down and take a nap. And so I ran away. I ran away from that particular babysitter house back to Miss Rosie. I actually took this journey when my book first came out, and I walked it. My sister and my dad went with me, and it took us about 20-25 minutes between that place and going, to the place that I went. But, at 5 years old, I wasn't thinking about being hit by a car. I wasn't thinking about getting kidnapped, any of that. But I was determined to get back to Miss Rosie's house, and I actually did. So I walked from the new babysitter house back to my old babysitter house, and she didn't know anything. She just felt like my mom maybe was rushing again like she normally does, and she just dropped me off really quick and she left because when she came to the door, nobody was there but me. And so she let me in. She went and cooked my favorite chicken and dumpling. And so, but at this time, I didn't know, nor did she know that it was a search party out looking for me at 5 years old because I ran away. And so, eventually it's like, let me go look over here. And that's where I was. So at 5 years old, I developed, determination. And as years went on, like I said, watching my parents, how they worked, and then watching how their compassion for others, hey, can you do this for me? My dad had always worked multiple jobs to provide for his family, but he cut yards off and on. He worked at Domino's. He worked on the railroad, but like I said, he was trying to provide, a good life for his family and to be a provider. And so I watch how, somebody may ask, hey, can you come cut my yard? I know I'm just going to do it for you. So sometimes he wouldn't charge people for that. So, but I saw that, as a young child. I saw the things that my mom did, people asking for things, or she would donate to St. Jude or different things, different organizations. So I saw that too growing up. So compassion I saw from my parents. And then dedication, just being dedicated. If it wasn't for my dedication, like I said, a lot of things that I have been able to accomplish, I wouldn't have done either because of my dedication. So faith, dedication, determination, and compassion are my four core values.
Awesome. And what I love about it is my identity strategist, he always says, Michael Weston, he always says that many times when we feel as if we are out of line, it can be traced back to us disassociating ourselves with our core values. That's why I was so excited that you brought that whole concept up. Now, let's talk about your book. You basically talk about this within your book. Can you give us the title of your book, give us a brief description? I know you kind of gave us what was in it, but just a brief description of the book.
Yes. So the name of the book is Determination plus Core Values equals Success. And basically it is a workbook. It's not just a book you just sit down and read. It's an action. So you will read and go through, different chapters and they ask you questions, to make it personal, because I go through and I open up a lot. I open up, like I said, I talk about how, at 4 years old, me and my mom almost died. At 5 years old, me running away. My journey becoming a massage therapist, becoming an esthetician, the obstacles that I've had to face, the closed doors, me making my own doors, helping others along the way. But it is a workbook, but it talks about things that, it's been 10 years now that I've been in the industry. And, over the years, questions people have asked me, things that I have went through. But basically, it hit me during COVID, it was something I had wanted to do for 2 or 3 years. And when COVID happened, I said, okay, now I really have the time. I'm not doing anything. I am more of a control person, and I could not control anything during COVID. So I was like, this is the time for me to do it. But initially I was going to do an autobiography about my life, from, growing up until where I am now. But, it hit me during COVID when the different loans started coming out, the PPP, different grants become started being available for businesses. And I saw so many people struggling, so many people have to close because they didn't get anything, they couldn't get anything. But a lot of it was from a lot of people didn't have their business set up correctly. So, I changed my whole, mindset and book around, because I wanted to produce something that would help those people that were, thinking about opening, the ones that are already open, even for the ones that have been, this season that have been open 20 years. But so it's something in my book for everybody. Again, if you are just now starting, it's great because it pretty much from start to finish, you'll, open a business, a successful business, so that you can thrive and be successful. But like I said, if you're already open and you're having some type of trouble and need some direction, the book is great for you. And then again, somebody that's seasoned, that has been in business and just kind of in a standpoint, or just needing a little push to maybe to set yourself aside and be an expert in whatever field that you're in. Now, of course, my book is targeted to wellness providers because that's what I do. But, you have to look at when you're developing a business or opening a business, it is all the same. So you have to determine first your core values. We talk about that first, but then you also have to determine your business entity. And that doesn't matter what business you're in. You have to determine you want to be a sole proprietor, a LLC, a corporation, partnership. We talk about that. Talk about the pros and cons of each one of those to determine which one is right for you. It talks about finding an accountant. The questions to ask them, you actually interview them, not just, them asking you questions, but, you need to figure out if this person, he or she, or this company is right for you. Finding the right bank. Again, questioning them. Have you had anybody, in my field as a client? Do you know what I do? If I take a check, will my check be deposited today? Will it take 2 days? Is it a fee for this or for that? You just ask those questions. Like I said, you go and interview them to see if this particular bank or credit union it's right for you. Another one big thing that I talk about is cost per service. A lot of people are in business and they're wondering why they are struggling to pay themselves, or they can't pay themselves, or why the next person is doing this, this, and this, and I can't seem to do that. Although you should follow your own lane and not necessarily watch somebody else. But, a lot of people do that. They say, oh, well, this person is doing this and this, I want to do it too. But because if you don't know your cost per service, you can't do certain things. And the biggest thing is paying yourself. If you do have a business and you're not paying yourself and you can't pay your bills, you don't necessarily have a business. It's more of maybe a hobby versus having a business. So those are some of the things that are in the books that I really like to make, a point about, especially for people that are looking to become an entrepreneur, or like I said, maybe been in business 1 or 2 years, or even being a veteran in the business, making sure, some of those things you have in place. Like I said, setting up your business as a business making sure you have your EIN number, making sure your business is separate from your personal account and have a business account. Um, so those are some of the things, but it's literally from A to Z that are that's in my book.
That's great. I love that it's a workbook because a lot of times we get books just to read, but we never apply the
Right.
tools, techniques, and strategies that are wrapped within that. So I love that that it has the workbook aspect on it, so that as we're gaining these tools, techniques, and strategies, we also can put a plan to paper and begin to see those things unfold in our life. You said something. You said something. You said something. You were talking about doors, but you said something that I've heard very few people say. You said making your own doors. Making your own doors. Many times we get stuck on doors being closed in our face. Many times we get stuck on waiting for the door to open. Let's talk from the space of making your own door, whether as an entrepreneur or in any aspect of your life. Why is that an important concept to you?
For me, because I can say there wasn't a lot of people who looked like me. Actually, there wasn't. I knew of one person when I first got out of massage school, and but I felt like she didn't do a lot. I felt like she was at the point of, I'm looking maybe for a transition out of this. But for me, it was because I didn't see anybody who looked like me. I got so much flack because I chose to do this. People would meet me and they was like, "Oh, you do this for a living, or you rub on people for a living, or you decide to do this." Oh, okay. They're just question and just looking kind of funny. But in my mind, hey, this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do. But for me, I wanted to learn everything I could. And not only that, I wanted to get to the point where I am now, 10 years later. Now I can be that person who looks like the other person who wants to strive to become maybe an educator, maybe become a school owner, and just do things that we see a lot of our counterparts do that doesn't look like us, but be more included. So now for me, all of the education, all the travel, I've traveled around the world, around the States. I have trained in Thailand twice now, 2016 and 2018. And a lot of things that I have done, a lot of people now are looking at, wow, he's done this, this, and this. I would love to do that, but that's because they seen somebody who looks like them, and now they know, it gives them motivation because I was able to do it. And so for me, opening those doors or maybe, going behind somebody else that has opened the door. But, maybe for my generation or the people, that I have contact with or just follow me or, that are in my realm as far as my circle, for me, it's very important, that I know that people are watching me, and so I have to be careful, about the things that I do and things that I say. So I always try to be that positive, that light for others to see, so that they know that they can do it. That's the whole reason I got into this industry, because I just love helping others. And so if I can do something to help somebody else to be a better person, to show them that, hey, I can do it too. I don't want to, just do everything you did, but, make it their own. I just, love being a part of that and just like I said, showing others that they can do it as well.
Absolutely. Representation is so important. And I think we're seeing that even in this year's election, having the first female vice president be
Yes.
a black woman,
Yes.
and that representation can cause a paradigm shift in a
Yeah.
lot of young ladies and young men as well. So I
Yeah.
definitely understand exactly what you are saying, because it's something about seeing somebody accomplish something that you may be interested in that looks like you. So it's
Yes.
great too to have that, to be willing to be a trailblazer, to go into those territories. It takes that. I told you, I told you when we got on and I asked you that question. I told you
Yeah.
that it was going to be a space in the conversation where you would display that supernatural strength. It takes supernatural strength to be able to flow in a system or flow in a space that technically was not created with you in mind. It takes that
Yes.
supernatural strength to be that one, to be that example. So I told you I was going to be able to fit it in the conversation, and I was able to fit it in the conversation. Now I have one more question for you, okay?
Okay.
You've given us a lot throughout this conversation. If everyone was to forget everything that you said, what would be one thing that you would want them to remember from this conversation?
Be yourself. Follow your dreams. Follow your aspirations. No matter what anybody says, no matter what it looks like, no matter how you may feel, how long it may feel like it'll take you to get it done. If this is what's in your heart to do it. No matter what anybody says, do it. You have to follow your dream. You have to follow your heart. You have to follow your calling. Even if nobody else sees your vision, you see the vision because he gave it to you. He didn't give it to anybody else. He gave it to you. So if anything else, follow your dreams, follow your heart, follow the vision that was given to you.
Awesome, awesome. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to give everybody your social media handles, website, where they can order your book, all of that information. I want you to give that to the audience.
You can follow me on Instagram at I am underscore Terrance Bonner. My website is thebonnerinstitute.com. My book is available on my website. I can send a signed copy from my website, or you can purchase it from Amazon or Barnes and Noble.
All right, Terrance, I want to thank you again for being with us on tonight. Listening audience, I thank you. Now, listening audience, you already know what I want you to do. I want you to head over to his website, purchase the book. You know how I feel about those I bring on the platform. If I bring them on here, I want us to support them. So get over there, grab your copy of the book, begin to go through the plan within the book, and begin to watch the transformative power begin to take place in your life. As I always say, create a great day, walk with purpose, and by all means, execute your vision. Peace.